The city skyline shimmered with 1,000 lights as evening settled in, and yet inside the tallest tower of all, the heart of the man who owned it remained empty. His name was Alexander, but people never called him that. They called him Sir or Boss, or Mr. Gray. He was the CEO of one of the largest companies in the country, a man who commanded entire industries with a single word. But when he stepped away from the boardrooms and sat in his vast penthouse surrounded by silence, he felt like a shadow drifting through life. Alexander had been this way for years. The world admired his power, his wealth, his reputation, but no one saw the loneliness buried beneath it. No family, no friends, no one who spoke to him without fear in their voice. He told himself it did not matter that business was enough, but deep down he longed for something he could not name, something real. One evening after a long day of meetings, he dismissed his driver and decided to walk the streets alone. He did not know why, but he felt drawn away from the noise of wealth and into the quiet corners of the city. He wandered through neighborhoods he had not seen in years, and soon he heard music faint but warm, drifting from a small brick building. Curious, he stepped closer. The sign above the door read Community Center. The windows glowed with light and laughter floated out as he peeked inside. He saw children dancing, spinning clumsy and free. Their joy filled the air like sunlight, and for a moment Alexander felt a strange ache as if he were missing something he had never even known. He was about to turn away when his eyes fell on a little girl sitting at the edge of the room. She was in a wheelchair, her small hands clapping to the beat, her eyes shining. As she watched the others dance, there was longing in her gaze and courage too. She did not notice him at first, but then she turned her head. Their eyes met, and before he could move, she wheeled herself toward him. Her smile was bright and fearless. She tilted her head back and said in a soft but steady voice, "Can you teach me to dance?" The words struck him still. He almost laughed, not in cruelty, but in shock. No one had spoken to him like that in years, so simple, so direct. He opened his mouth to say he could not, that he did not know how. But then he saw the hope burning in her eyes, and something inside him softened his lips, curved into a smile. A real smile, not the one he used in meetings, but one that came from somewhere deep. He knelt down so his eyes met hers and said, "If you trust me, then yes, I can." Her name was Lily. She was 9 years old. She told him that she had been in the chair since she was 4 because of an accident, but that she loved music because it made her feel alive. When she heard it, she imagined herself spinning and flying like the others. She had always wanted to dance, but no one had ever tried to teach her because they thought she could not. Alexander listened to her voice, to the courage in it, to the way she spoke without fear of who he was. He did not feel like a CEO in that moment, only a man standing before a child who asked for something pure. He looked toward the corner where a speaker was playing gentle music. He placed his hand carefully on hers and said, "Then let us begin." He guided her arms to move with the rhythm, slow and steady. He showed her how to lift her hands like wings, how to sway with the beat. Then he placed his hands gently on the back of her chair and began to guide it in circles. She laughed at first, nervous and shy, but soon her laughter turned into pure joy. She closed her eyes and raised her arms, and in that moment the chair was no longer holding her. It was carrying her. She was dancing. The children noticed and began to cheer. They clapped to the beat, circling around Lily and Alexander. Her laughter echoed through the room, and he found himself laughing too, a sound he had not heard from his own lips in years. It felt strange and wonderful. When the music stopped, Lily looked up at him, her eyes wide with happiness, and she said, "Thank you. No one ever believed I could, but you made me feel like I can fly." Her words pierced the walls he had built around himself for so long. That night, he returned to his tower, but the silence felt different. He replayed her laughter in his mind. He thought of her small hands lifted to the sky, and he realized something had shifted inside him. The next week, he went back to the center, and the week after that, soon it became a ritual no matter how full his schedule was. He made time for Lily together. They created dances with her arms moving like flowing water, with With her chair spinning like a carousel with him guiding her and sometimes just clapping along, she began choreographing steps for the other children and he helped guide them. The children started calling him teacher instead of mister. And for the first time in years, he felt that he belonged somewhere. One evening after a dance, Lily asked him a question that no one else dared to ask. Why are you always alone? You smile, but your eyes look sad. Alexander paused, unsure how to answer. He had never admitted it to anyone, he finally said. Because even though I have everything, I am still lonely. I never learned how to share my heart. Lily reached out and squeezed his hand and said, Maybe you were waiting for the right dance partner. Her words stayed with him that night as he looked out over the glowing city from his penthouse. The lights no longer seemed empty, they felt alive. He began to notice how his steps were lighter, his voice warmer, his smile easier. He started donating quietly to the center instruments, books, costumes, but more important than money, he gave them his time and his presence. Months passed. Lily grew stronger in spirit and skill. She choreographed a performance for the community and insisted Alexander be her partner on stage. He resisted at first, afraid of making a fool of himself. But she looked at him with those determined eyes, and he could not refuse the night of the performance. The hall was packed with families and neighbors. When Lily wheeled onto the stage with Alexander beside her, the crowd fell silent. The music began soft and steady, and he guided her movements. Her arms moved like wings. Her chair spun like a dancer twirling across the floor together. They created something beautiful. When the song ended, the audience erupted into applause. Many with tears in their eyes, Lily bowed in her chair, her smile shining brighter than the lights. Alexander bowed too. But in his heart, he knew he was the one who had been given a gift for. In that dance, he had found what he had been missing all his life. From then on, he was no longer known. Only as the lonely CEO, people saw him at the center, at the park, at the little bakery nearby. Always with Lily by his side, they laughed together, argued sometimes, practiced dances until they collapsed with exhaustion. But always they carried joy and courage in their steps. She called him teacher. He called her his partner, and together they reminded each other that life was not about power or wealth, but about connection. Years later, when people spoke of Alexander, they no longer described him as ruthless or cold. They said he was kind. They said he had changed. They said he was never alone anymore. And it all began because one little girl in a wheelchair looked up at him with fearless eyes and asked, "Can you teach me to dance?" And he smiled and said yes.